game, or maybe the best at the end of the game, but give me the most in between. That's kind of how I built my staffs back in the day. That I had Al Leiter was my ace, Mike Hampton was my ace, but they weren't necessarily, Randy Johnson and those guys back then, Greg Maddux back then, but they were a tick below that. But they still won a lot of games and gave us a chance to win every day. But I wanted to make sure that I had all kinds of bullpen behind them, that no matter what the opposition threw out there, we could match up with them. And I think that may be where you see Ross and Mark Shapiro really go to fortify that bullpen if they can't find that pitcher to go to the front of the rotation.
Jays Giants tonight. I said prior to you coming on, Steve, this feels like the biggest 2 weeks of Ross Atkins' tenure in Toronto, and he's been here for 9 years. He's been here for almost a decade, Shapiro even more so. Just based on the volatility in the marketplace, 6 months ago, let alone a year ago, the position they've found themselves in, which they've earned, their players have put them in this spot, but now you got the market coming alive here. And fans are fickle, the media is fickle, there's going to be ebbs and flows. Like Atkins, if he can hit a grand slam or so, even a double or a triple, anything like that, hit for the cycle, I don't care which analogy you got to use, he can do it in the next 2 weeks. He can, I think, almost pull a 180 and basically redeem himself completely within the marketplace. Like, I'm sure he's aware of that. I know publicly he's going to claim that he doesn't care, but he is human. Like, it's a big opportunity for him in a market that's been talking a lot about Ross for the last couple of years, and a large majority of that chatter has been negative in tone.
Yeah, so I wrote about it today on .ca that, look, general managers, presidents, they're people too, so they do have feelings. Like, they know.
Yep.
They know. They feel the pressure. They know what's going on. They know that you get hired to get fired in these jobs. And yet, you can't do something that's exclusively for you personally. And I use the example, the Mets are retiring David Wright's number tonight and inducting him into the Mets Hall of Fame. Well, when I was Mets general manager, I knew I was in trouble going into the 2003 season. I could have traded David Wright for, any number of players. I could have traded Jose Reyes for any number. I had people calling me all the time, would you do this, that? And maybe trying to sniff out if I was desperate to do something, but it wasn't the right thing for the organization. So within the constraints of what is reasonable, proper, prudent, and appropriate, you make deals. And I think that for Ross, with where they've gotten themselves to right now, it's time to make that, strike that deal, find the guy. Don't get a guy you need to fix. My experience generally is that when you get a pitcher, they tend to pitch as well for you as they did for the previous team. You might get lucky and have a guy really get hot and everything else. And rarely do you get them and all of a sudden they go kaput. Generally they keep doing for you. So if you get a guy who's been pretty good with another team, he's going to be pretty good for you. I want the guy who's pitching great for somebody to come in and be great for us when I made deals. And so I think that's going to be something to be important. Zach Gallen is pitching to a 5.4 ERA. He's got a great name, and his last 3 or 4 starts have been good. And maybe he can get 2 more starts in and sell me that he's back on track again. But if there's a clunker in there and then a mediocre start in there, then he really is the guy with a 5.4 ERA right now. And I can't, hang my hat on his name about what he's been. I want to trade for the guy for what he is.
With Steve Phillips, and, all eyes are going to be on the Yankees and the Red Sox, clearly. And we were discussing this earlier in the week, the arms race, so to speak. How does that work in terms of Atkins? Let's use Ross as the barometer here, because we're talking about the Jays and we're up here in Toronto. Like, how closely are you monitoring or trying to get a read on what the Yankees and the Red Sox might be doing over the next 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah, I would. What I did is I read every news clipping from every baseball city, and especially the ones where I thought I might be in competition for the same players. And I think it's safe to say that the Yankees are looking for starting pitching. The Red Sox looking for starting pitching. They're both looking for bullpen help. You know what? The Yankees are looking for a third baseman. And you know what? You might be happy with Ernie Clement at third base. Maybe you think I don't have the resources. But I'll tell you right now that I would be in on the conversations on a third baseman. If the Yankees are in on Eugenio Suarez, I'm going to check in too, just to continue to run the price up, to make it like maybe I'll give you these players in my farm system. Even if I don't want to, I might pretend just to run the price up on it. But I think it's going to be, and I think the other thing to remember is that if you're competing for the same guys, and you'll know by the chatter, the rumors that are out there, then you might pay a little bit more to get a guy, but you understand that you're playing a game of keep away. That if I get them and they don't, that's a double victory. And I think that has value, talent value in a trade that you have to consider when you're trying to figure out what the right deal is to make.
Which of those teams would scare you the most, Steve?
Well, I think probably the Yankees more than the Red Sox. Although I think the Rays are not out of this either. The Tampa Bay Rays, there's a real good chance that you could have 4 AL East teams in the playoffs. And then Detroit in the Central and Houston out west. I think the Mariners are going to fade. I don't believe in the Mariners. What Cal Raleigh's done is amazing, but if he hasn't done it, they certainly wouldn't be 5 games over 500. I don't know how he can keep doing what he's doing as a catcher. So I do think that the American League East is the one that you got to focus on. And, I think that the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays in that order are teams that I worry about. But I think all of them are worth worrying over. Those head-to-head matchups when you play those teams. So they play the Blue Jays play the Yankees, I think, coming up in a series right after the first one. I think that you've got to take care of business in those series. Head-to-head matchups are going to matter. Tiebreakers are going to matter. And so that ability to get the advantage over the other team is going to be critical for the Blue Jays to figure out if they win the division and where they seed in the wild card if they fall into that role.
When you look around the league, which player is available, playing well, and a team's going to move them out? Like which player is going to be that player that everyone's going to want at this trade deadline?
Yeah. So I think right now, Arizona's 5.5 out of the wild card, and I just don't believe that they're going to, get themselves back into it. And if they do, I think it's the worst thing for them. The goal is to win the most games over the most number of years, and I don't know that this is their year. And this is a great year for them to reset. So Eugenio Suarez is, destroying the baseball this year. Since last July 1st, last year, July 1st, he got 55 home runs. I mean, he is a legitimate middle of the lineup bat. He can play a solid third base. And the Yankees are in on him. Seattle Mariners are in on him. There are the Cubs. The Cubs, how about this for the Cubs? As good as their offense has been this year, their third baseman, they played 6 players at third base this year. They've totaled a 199 batting average and 1 home run. 1 home run. It's been Pete Crow Armstrong, Kyle Tucker, and Seiya Suzuki that have gotten it done for them. They could use a third baseman. And if you can't get pitching, then you might try to slug people to death. So I think Suarez and then Josh Naylor at first base is for any team looking at a first baseman, he's the preeminent guy. That's why Arizona needs to make trade. You can get 3 prospects for Naylor, 3